Welcome back to the Bad Ideas Garage, and we're back here with our cheap Mercedes R-Class, and we're going to be getting into the next big thing. So I was driving it around, and it's had an exhaust leak since we bought it, and I stopped for a little bit, and I saw a lot of smoke coming out of the hood, which was a negative thing. Crawl underneath there, and I could, after taking a look around, trying to find it, I finally figured out what it was, and it is, well, the exhaust manifold. I found a new one here, but these have a pretty known fault. Right here, there's a flex joint. It's a really small flex joint, and mine is totally separated. It's got a gigantic gaping hole in it, as best I can tell. I won't know for sure until I get it out, but yeah, I gotta put in a new exhaust manifold here on the passenger side before this thing is safe to drive. So that's what we're gonna be starting to do today. Okay, so first things first, the exhaust manifold, it lives under here somewhere. So as you can see, it's gonna be hard to get to. We gotta start by taking off all this intake plumbing again. So this is coming back off. We gotta take off this air box. There's some protective rubber coverings. Basically a bunch of stuff that needs to come off so I can get underneath there and hopefully see the intake, which runs along here on this bank of cylinders and then up and into a Y pipe at the bottom end of the turbo. So I think I'm gonna have to take this off as well again. Luckily, I've still got all this plastic fascia off from the last time, so it's going to be a little bit less of a job than normal, but yeah, it's going to be a lot to get down there. So I'm going to crack on and start by removing all of this. Okay, intake plumbing off, air box off, and then we got to actually figure out where the exhaust manifold is. And as you can see down here, it didn't gain us a huge amount of access. Exhaust manifold's like back here underneath a protective cover, and so it's definitely there. But I have to get that panel off before I'll be able to actually really see anything that even remotely looks like the exhaust manifold. Fun. No one online seems to say how to get this heat shield off, and so I think I should explain it to you all, because my guess is other people are looking for it, and we're trying to find it like I did and couldn't find it. So first off, there is a 10mm hex bolt hidden underneath the heat shield here. You just gotta feel it with your fingertips and you will find it, and you can put a wrench on it. Secondly, there's a bunch of E10s on a bracket right here. You need to remove 3 bolts and another one that's down here, and you can slot this whole side of the heat shield off like I have done so. Very hard to see, very limited working room. Really kind of a pain in the arse. And then up front, there is additional brackets, and they are basically kind of running the length right here on top of the alternator. And there's a bunch of E10s that have to come out. Once I get it out, I will photograph it all for you. But yeah, this is where it is in the car. There's a bunch of E10s, and they've all got to come out here, here, and another one was back there. And yeah, they're just not visible, not obvious, and it's a very strange way to do this heat shield. First off, there's 3 E10 bolts, and they're kind of clipped in right here. You can see the holes now. We're taking it out. And then there's one 10mm hex bolt, and you can't really see it. You got to feel it, and it's under this whole thing, down, under, and below. And then the last ones are up here on the front. There's 2 E10s, and you can't really see them unless you put a mirror on them, which is kind of a thing. They're under there. They're very greasy on this car. And let's see if I can get a good view of it anywhere. Probably not with the camera in hand and flashlight here. But take my word for it. There's 2 E10s near the front of this bracket here, and it's very difficult to get to them. It's very difficult to see them. But there they are, right there. There we go. There's 2 E10s right there. You can see the shiny part, which I already removed, and there's one more down below. And hopefully that'll help get this exhaust heat shield off. Because I looked around online, and I couldn't find anybody who explained how to properly take this thing out of here. So hopefully this helps somebody. But yeah, there's 3 E10s at the back, 1 metric standard hex bolt below, and then 2 E10s up here on the front of the clip, and then the whole thing should hopefully fall out. I'll take a good video of it once I get it out, just to show you all, for anybody else suffering like me trying to do an exhaust manifold. Okay, so here is the exhaust manifold shield. This is an absolute nightmare of a part to get out. So, because there were no good pictures of this online, I want to make sure everybody else who ever has to do this job knows where to look. So yeah, 10mm hex bolt, it's on the bottom here. You can get a wrench underneath this whole thing. This is the bottom of it, and spin this guy off. Then on the front, there are two E10 bolts, and they kind of go underneath of another clip. And so once you get this thing off, you kind of shuffle the whole thing backwards to get it out and then forward. And then on the back, there are 2 or 3 E10s plus another bolt that goes into the exhaust to hold it up. And you gotta take all that out, and then the whole thing can kind of be slopped out. Now, to actually get it out of the car, again, bit of a nightmare. It's very tight here, at least on the driver's side. This would be way, on the passenger side, it'd be way easier on the driver's side. You have to pull it out forward, which means you got to unclip all these wires, give yourself some slack, and you just got to carefully work it out. In this particular case, it was very greasy, very painful, and very unpleasant, but yes, we can finally see the exhaust manifold down there. And its bolts are actually much easier to get to. So there's just a couple bolts up on top and bottom, and then the ones behind the turbo. So we'll get on to that next. Okay, we can finally get our first look at the exhaust manifold. These are actually shouldn't be too bad. They don't even look too stuck. There's just 3 bolts on top, 3 bolts below. And then we've got to get all the piping out the back of the turbocharger here. We get down to that Y pipe and hopefully get this broken exhaust manifold off the engine. Okay, got the exhaust off the back of the turbocharger down here. And now I just need to get these 3 bolts and one more hidden back there off the back of this Y pipe, and then do the ones on the sides of the engine, and hopefully we'll be able to get this exhaust manifold out of here. Fingers crossed. All right, bolts are out of there. These, actually surprisingly easy. Not bad. Alrighty, got all 3 of the exhaust manifold bolts out. Now I just gotta fish this guy out of here, which could take a little bit, but hopefully soon we'll have this guy off the engine. Okay, here's a little comparison between the shiny new exhaust manifold and the one that was in the car. And these exhaust manifolds, they have a joint, and you can see right here at the flex joint, that's looking really blackened. And actually, if we peel off, you can actually see the huge freaking hole that was in that flex joint. So yeah, this one is absolutely junk. There's nothing good about this. But now we get this nice shiny new one with a happy flex joint. We're gonna put this thing back in, and hopefully our exhaust leaks will be solved. Alrighty, it was a lot of wrenching, but the shiny new exhaust manifold is now bolted to the side of the engine and back here at the Y pipe, which is awesome. Now I just have to get back on the greasy, nasty shield, which luckily now that I know where all the bolts are, shouldn't be too bad, which is good. And we'll be able to start the car pretty soon, which will be very exciting. Okay, it's all back together. My hands are totally greasy. This is somewhat less greasy and a bit cleaned up, and the exhaust manifold is now bolted in tight. And I'm gonna go for the first start. Wish me some luck. Well, the battery's a little low from sitting, that's for sure. But I no longer hear an awful exhaust leak, which is great. And there's no smoke coming out from the back of the engine bay, which is also really great. And I don't smell an exhaust leak. It's fixed. Alrighty, thank you for joining us for Bad Ideas Garage. And this is how you replace an exhaust manifold on a Mercedes R320 or OM642 engine in general. So hey, if you got another car, an ML320, a GL320, this is how you do it. Same way. Hope you learned something. See you later, folks.